While many NBA superstars, past and present, have become role models for their young fans, there's also another subset of the sport that has walked a different, darker path. The fame and money can easily cause NBA players to think that they're above the law, and this leads to them thinking that they can get away with breaking the law. But obviously, that's not always true. Welcome back to Triple Double, and in this video, we'll be going over NBA players who broke the law and got caught. Glenn Robinson. Glenn Robinson had an impressive NCAA career at Purdue University, making him the first pick of the 1994 NBA draft, and he had a pretty solid career in the NBA. However, towards the latter end of his NBA career, he sullied his good name by committing a drunken act of domestic violence in 2002. On July of 2002, an intoxicated Robinson paid a visit to his ex, Jonta French, in Chicago, Illinois. Demanding to see the daughter they shared, Robinson was led inside. He then became violent, attacking and battering French. Making matters worse, he then pulled out a gun and chased his ex-fiancée with it. She eventually made it to a neighbor's house where she called the local police. And Robinson eventually received a light sentence, as athletes often do. But the judge gave Glenn Robinson a verbal call-out via the Chicago Tribune. He said that it's shocking what you did. You might have had some grievances, but you had no right to take it out on the mother of your daughter. You are a role model, and as such, you brought shame on yourself and your family, and you let your fans down. Not a good look for Glenn Robinson. Elvin Robertson. Robertson wasn't exactly a well-known star in the NBA, but he did maintain a presence as a defensive whiz during his career. But after his retirement, he went off the rails. Robertson broke into a woman's house in San Antonio, Texas, where he played professional basketball. He reportedly strangled and bit her. Robertson was arrested and sentenced to 9 months for assault, a year for a second assault charge, 6 months for resisting arrest, and 4 months for criminal trespass. Although the trouble didn't stop there. He was popped in 2010 for kidnapping a 14-year-old girl. He allegedly forced her to perform lewd acts on him. The charges were eventually dropped 5 years later, but the damage was no doubt done. Kendrick Perkins. Perkins had a solid career with the Celtics, the Thunder, Cavaliers, Pelicans, and the Cavs again. He even won a title with Boston in 2008. But it was his arrest in August of 2011 that lands him on this list. Perkins got in trouble during the NBA lockout that occurred in 2011. He incited a chaotic melee at the Ticket nightclub in Beaumont, Texas, where he was arrested for misdemeanor disorderly conduct and public intoxication after trying to fight the club's manager. When he was shoved out of the back door, he continued to shout vulgar language and fight other people. Perkins was in Beaumont to host the Camp First Foundation, whose goal was to help children with drug awareness and life skills. Very ironic. Michael Olowokandi. The 7-foot Candyman could also land on the list of biggest busts after he flopped as the first pick of the 1998 NBA draft. His lack of production on the court was quite calm compared to an incident he was arrested for in 2001. The story went that Olowokandi came home with a female friend, to the ire of his then partner, Suzanne Ketchum. When she confronted him, Olowokandi hit her, took her jewelry, and procured all relevant surveillance videos of the incidents for his own safekeeping. He was arrested for 3 serious felonies of robbery, false imprisonment, and cohabitant abuse. And because he was an athlete, he was able to pay a high-priced lawyer. Olowokandi eventually saw his charges reduced, but he still deserves a spot on this list. Delonte West. West got into trouble involving guns when he was stopped by Maryland police for speeding in 2009. When officers searched him, they found a 9mm pistol, a Magnum, and even a shotgun sealed in a guitar case. He was picked up on 2 gun charges. West's lawyer claimed that West was taking the guns from his mother's home to his house. Thankfully, no violence resulted from his firearms. West pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 8 months of home detention, 2 months of probation, and 40 hours of community service. Jason Richardson. Jason Richardson was known for his high-flying tenure with the Golden State Warriors before they became the title-contending juggernaut with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Perhaps his best claim to fame was his slam dunk contest wins during the All-Star break, but he was also arrested on some horrific charges. Rashana Jackman, the mother of Richardson's child, claimed that Richardson used her head to put a hole in an apartment wall. He was convicted of the crime by a jury after they laughed at his self-defense claim. It was yet another crime involving some sickening instances of domestic violence in NBA players. Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd had a great college and NBA career as a point guard, but his arrest is also so extensive that it comes in 2 parts. First, Kidd was arrested on domestic violence charges back in 2001. The punishment was relatively minor, as he was required to attend anger management and paid a small fine. He later claimed that his wife was the one attacking him when they got divorced years later. He got into even more trouble in his 2012 car accident involving mass amounts of alcohol. Kidd was seen drinking many beverages at a New York club before stumbling to his vehicle. He later wrapped it around a pole. He then refused a sobriety test. The accident was viewed as quite the horrific one. Despite its gruesome nature, Kidd somehow walked away unscathed, with only damage being done to his reputation and his car. Oliver Miller. Nicknamed Big O, Oliver Miller found a following at the University of Arkansas and his early career days with the Phoenix Suns. He was beloved for his ability to play a high-intensity sport like basketball, despite his physique. However, things soon worsened for Miller. He began bouncing around from team to team, and he soon found himself in legal troubles as well. In 2011, Miller went off and assaulted a girlfriend's brother with a handgun at a barbecue. The man ended up with 11 staples due to the brutal attack. Miller was then picked up by local Maryland police and booked on assault and reckless endangerment, in addition to various other offenses. He later pleaded guilty to first-degree assault and carrying a handgun. Unlike many of the famous players on this list, Miller actually went to jail when he was sentenced to 5 years in lockup. Lance Stephenson. The controversial Brad Stevenson has undoubtedly earned his spot on this list. The former Indiana Pacer was accused of tossing his then pregnant girlfriend down the stairs. He then allegedly slammed his partner's head on one of the stairs. He was charged with assault and harassment, but in a shocking turn of events, the prosecution against Stevenson failed to convict him, and he somehow got the charges dismissed. It wasn't the first time Stevenson had run afoul of the law, because he was also accused of sexual assault back in 2008 while he was in high school. Darren Collison. The former Indiana Pacer and former All-Rookie team member ran afoul of the law concerning a domestic violence incident. In 2016, he attacked his wife. He was booked on misdemeanor domestic violence causing injury and domestic battery charges, both misdemeanors. He was ultimately convicted for domestic battery.
The mugshot shows Darren Collison with a serious expression to match the serious domestic violence charge he's now facing. Deputies taking the Kingsguard into custody at his Granite Bay home after receiving a call from a woman reporting she was being assaulted inside the residence.
Collison served 20 days in jail and was only given a mere 20 hours of community service as a result of his attack. As part of the punishment, Collison had to attend a domestic abuse program as part of his 3-year informal probation period. He was later picked up on public intoxication charges in his career, but that obviously paled in comparison to his initial troubles. Jason Williams. Williams became embroiled in a bizarre, violent controversy when limousine driver Gus Christophe perished at his mansion in New Jersey, where he played for the Nets. It was later found that Williams attempted to cover up evidence of the killing in order to potentially stay out of trouble. He was arrested on aggravated assault, concealing a shooting, and aggravated manslaughter charges. The aggravated manslaughter charge was dropped, but Williams was indeed convicted of 4 counts of the prior charges. He admitted to his disgusting cover-up. He actually served his jail time for this horrendous crime, and he was jailed for 18 months. For what it's worth, Williams did own up to his mistake, but the fact that he did it in the first place makes him by far the most notorious criminal on this list. And with all that being said, that wraps up today's video on NBA players who broke the law and got caught. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe to Triple Double and drop a like.